Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. Took a few minutes to get set up because of where we're at today, and Mother Nature doesn't play along with lighting. Why I only invest in real estate. I have a video coming up soon with Millennial Mike and the Lumberjack Landlord where we talk about some of the poorer things that we've done in life. We talk about some of the things and successes we've had and challenges we had in investing and reaching financial freedom. But have we ever talked about the things we've done? For that video, I want to have my brother David there because I don't think people will believe me when I say what we did when we were growing up. So I need someone else there. In this video, we both retired using real estate, right? This is my brother David. He got all the looks in the family. I would say it skips a generation, but I don't think that's how math works. Do you own any stocks?
I do not.
Okay. Do you own any crypto?
Nope, not at all.
Okay. Do you know what crypto is?
I do. It's a bit scary. So
It's a bit scary. Okay. And if you were going to go buy a stock today, how would you do that? What store do you go to?
I haven't a clue. I've focused on real estate and it just seems to work for me.
Yeah. So in another video, I asked you if you know the difference between Republicans and Democrats, and I think you said something like they both lie.
Pretty much.
Okay. So you did know more than I expected you to. Howdy, Cody. Thank you. I appreciate that. The point of these types of questions isn't to make fun of my brother, right? You give me plenty of ammunition. The point of this is to say, you don't have to be a super educated, really smart person. And if I asked you, who do you think buys stocks? Really smart people or really dumb people? Right? If you don't like the asset class, you might say dumb people.
Right.
But if I go, how do you buy stocks? And you go, I don't know. Must be smarter than us, right?
There you go.
Okay. Chicken know that it's not sunup. This is a live video. Jesus. This is what the Apache called the middle of nowhere.
That's true.
Boondocks.
Yep, that's a rooster.
He approves of this message. Oh, and in this video, I will be doing some Mexican Coke. So if you don't like that, don't stay around. And also, if you don't get the joke, you have no sense of humor. So we bought real estate because where would you go to buy real estate?
Where would I go to buy real estate?
Where did you go?
Basically within a radius of my house. I didn't have much traveling to do to get it. Since then, I've got properties in 2 different states, so that no longer applies. But when you first start out and having something nearby, it seems to make sense.
So there aren't stocks within driving distance of your house, but there is real estate within driving distance of your house. And I'm not picking on you. I'm saying that's a reality. There's not like a stock store we can go to.
Right.
But there are. How many real estate offices are there in your hometown? That's how many there are here.
Very true.
Our friend Steve, did you ever buy any properties through Steve?
I did. I bought 3 or 4 of them through him.
Okay.
He was a real estate broker and he did a good job for me.
He did a good job for me too. He ended up retiring, so I had to find someone new. And I've gone with David Pittler after this. Yep. And done 5 deals with him. It's gone great.
Very good.
So there are people that go around and buy and sell real estate. We don't interact with the people who buy and sell stocks. We don't see stock trading stores the way old people think, because that's what we are.
Right.
In our town, you do have apps on your phone. You have apps like you watch Netflix, you watch Hulu. There's apps called Robinhood where you can buy and sell stocks.
Right.
But then the risk factor comes in. So if we only invest in real estate and we don't invest in crypto, and do you have a good reason why you only invest in real estate and nothing else?
Well, yeah, I like to buy something and know it's mine. And with crypto, you never know what's going to truly happen to it. Properties could do the same thing, but you could always sell it and get away from it. Normally, with all mine, they've went up in value, and I kind of like that. I've got a system that seems to work quite well with me, and I feel good putting people into houses, and supplying them with a decent house at a decent cost. I just feel good all the way around, no matter what angle you look at it. It just really works for me.
I am excited to see the results of your binder strategy. It's been the first time you've ever done one. You should be doing one soon. That we have a kind of a different take on real estate. We both invested differently. So one of the things that I do to diversify is I invest where my properties are at least 10 miles apart, right? So I'm in Tacoma and Spanaway and Olympia and Tumwater and Yelm out here in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And now Port Orchard, Kitsap County. Where are your properties located?
Well, I got some in Thurston County and some in Pierce County, and those are all within roughly 20 miles of each other. And then I got some in Southern California. And I hang on to those. They're beneficial. They're next to family. I do a lot of traveling. It's all a write-off.
Mhm.
You're going to and from and anywhere in between is basically a write-off. And that's meals and lodging and, well, sightseeing, but you got to look somewhere when you're driving.
So can I tell you a secret to life?
Secret to life.
Mhm.
Sure, I'd love to hear.
So I don't own any properties in California, and I don't own any properties in Portugal. But 100% of our trip to Portugal was written off.
Yeah.
Because I was studying real estate markets for my real estate business.
Sure.
There you go. So I talked about crypto. I talked about stocks. When you retired the next year, did you own a business?
I did not.
You did not. So the three main paths to financial freedom is investing in real estate, which is what we chose. There's investing in stocks, which I would say crypto is kind of a stock investment for people with a higher risk tolerance. And then there's starting and growing a business, like the CDL school that I worked at. The owners had moved to Arizona, then Florida, now Tennessee, and the business is here in Washington and Idaho. Some people start and grow a business and get it large enough to where someone else runs the day to day. But we retired. Have you ever had a retirement account?
No.
No. Okay. Have you ever had? You had a W-2, boss, right?
Yeah, when I was in high school.
Okay. So he had one job in his entire life. He was high school.
Good for me. People with the 401ks, and you hear them talk about it and they accumulate and everything, but at the end of the day, they're not making what I'm making with rentals. I've got rentals that I've paid less than $50,000 for that are making me close to $2,000 a month. Now, the people with the 401ks that put $50,000 into the 401k, I don't think they're making $2,000 a month off of them. I really don't know a whole lot about them, so I could be wrong, but it just seemed that real estate's the way to go.
And there are a lot of people who say, congratulations, you benefited from your age. You bought in a time when houses were $60,000.
Right.
And then people realize that there are people like Millennial Mike. He's young, millennial, it's in the name,
right,
who's investing in Gary, Indiana, where a triplex was $68,000. So yes, if you want to invest in a really high cost of living area, like when people say, I can't invest in California, it's too expensive. Do you own in Santa Monica?
I do not.
Do you own in Venice?
Nope.
Do you own in Rosamond, California?
I do.
You do, yes. Right, where 3 tacos and a mule can get you a property.
And those places have escalated in value. They're worth quite a bit more now.
Yes, they do go up in value, but just because you're in a large state like California or maybe even New York, where you say prices here are too expensive and maybe the rules don't benefit you, maybe get out of that county. In Washington State, if somebody gave me a property in King County, I would immediately sell it and buy something else.
Right.
But the rest of Washington is not so bad. It's just a one county of insanity, King County, where Seattle is. Not to name anybody by name, but that's the crazy people. So retirement accounts are tied to age. What age were you when you retired?
I was 50 years old.
Okay, and I was 52. So if you put money in a retirement account and you take it out before 59 and a half, you pay a penalty.
Right.
And if it's a traditional 401k, you also pay the taxes. So you're at the point now where you pay taxes on real estate, right?
I do. They're after me just like everybody else.
I look forward to that. I can't wait till I make enough money. So we both pay, our tenants pay property tax.
Right.
But on your income tax, on that, your write-offs and depreciation, because you've had your properties a while now, some of the depreciation is gone.
It is. That's true.
And you've heard me talk many times that I house hack.
Right.
Have you ever heard that before you heard me talk about it?
Nope.
No. Okay. But the duplexes that I bought a triplex that was built in 1921. Okay. So a triplex was built in 1921. So they were house hackers. That was before both of us were born, even if I think you put both the ages together, right? So house hacking's been around for a long time, but it's not a term that most people know. Did you know that you house hack?
Not until you explained it to me.
So David has house hacked a couple of different ways. This is something real estate can do that stocks and business and crypto, not so much. You purchased a house, you paid it off.
Mm-hmm.
So you used your house where you live to take out a home equity line of credit and buy rentals.
Sure.
So that is a form of house hacking. When I first moved to Washington after being homeless, getting out of the Marines, I lived in your playroom for a few months as a roommate. So you had roommates. That's a form of house hacking. These are different ways people house hack.
Okay.
So thanks for helping me not be homeless.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay. Then he bought a rental and put me in it at market rents.
It
That's
wasn't far
mainly.
enough away.
It wasn't far enough away.
Bit of a start.
Start. What do you call that house behind us right there on your property?
That's a rental too.
That is an ADU, which originally was the literal definition of a mother-in-law house.
Sure.
Which is now a rental. So you house hacked at least 3 ways and had no idea what the term was, or that it was a thing that you did to reach financial freedom, to make work optional and to never have to work again.
Right.
So
that
awesome.
Makes sense.
Right. And it's really weird. One of the things that I like to do when I'm making an investment or a decision in life is I look at it from the perspective of, if I was going to teach this someday, what articulable points would I be focused on teaching this to somebody, to then see how I can improve what I'm doing? Because the highest form of learning is teaching. If you look at it from that perspective, you've done this for years, but had no idea it was a thing. If you met somebody and they said, how'd you get into rentals? Would you have said, buy a house with another house on it?
Probably not. And I would have never used the word house hacking.
Right. Yeah. So you've done some amazing things, and I appreciate you coming on the channel. And Michelle and a few other people have actually said, we really look forward to David coming on here. Can you please have him on the channel again? So they appreciate this as much as I do, you coming here and sharing, because I know you're like me, we're camera shy.
I really am.
I think there's a total of 2 photographs of you before the age of 50 that I've ever seen in my entire life.
Oh, come on, there's more than that.
I've seen one with the 5 of us.
That's true.
So we have 13 siblings. There's 5 of us in one picture. That's all of us that ever got together at one point in time.
Huh.
What's that about?
I don't know.
Not far enough away again. All right. So we can diversify in real estate. In your tenant types, I've done something I don't know that you have.
Okay.
So I've diversified my tenant types. Since I'm only in one asset class and I don't want to go back to work, I've looked at, do you rent to any Section 8 tenants?
I do not.
Do not. Okay. And because I don't want to be demonetized or have my family called racist, I'm not going to ask you why you don't rent to Section 8 tenants.
Okay.
But do you have any military tenants?
I do.
Okay. And where are they at? Which rental?
In Rosamond, California.
So it's by the Edwards Air Force Base. Okay, good. So that's something I've done. If you have military and there is a pandemic and people are not allowed to go to work, the military gets paid. If there's a prolonged government shutdown long enough for the military not to get paid, your civilian workers and retired people will be paid. So you can diversify your tenant type.
Right.
You purchased a property over here who was rented to my favorite tenant that I talk about often, my very first tenant, which we will not mention, the name that cannot be mentioned.
Yeah.
How many rooms did you add to that rental when you purchased it?
I added 2. Made a 4-bedroom house out of a 2-bedroom single wide mobile.
So you buy a 2-bedroom single wide and you add 2 rooms. And I only remember this because I helped with the taping and mudding.
Right.
This was a billion years ago now.
It's been a while.
But a 4-bedroom house, how much more does a 4-bedroom in this area now rent compared to a 2-bedroom?
You know, I really don't check into that kind of stuff, but I'm happy with what I'm getting. So
this is what I'm trying to work on and why he's doing his first binder strategy. So a 2-bedroom in this area will rent for $1,900.
Okay.
And a 4-bedroom through Section 8, which means can be a little higher or lower than everyone else, I'm getting $3,000.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not getting that much. I'm happy with what I'm getting.
I'm sure you're happy with it until you have to go put a roof on and you're the one up there doing
That's
it because
true.
you don't have tenants paying the right amount of rent. But I'm not picking on my brother. Okay, so we can diversify our tenants. We can diversify location. You're in multiple states, 2 states that a lot of people say they would never own in. So good job with that. Some I've heard actually, so I don't know if I've explained this to you. There's a guy that I like to watch, not because of how he invests, but because of his energy. His name is Grant Cardone. He's been on BiggerPockets a couple of times. That show that I was on once or twice or 3 times now. And he says he prefers to invest in what are called blue states, which is where Democrats are.
Okay.
And it's most people want red states because there's less regulation, less chance of rent control, easier evictions, right? It's more landlord friendly. Well, Grant says he prefers to invest in blue states because they limit building. Look how hard it is to get a permit in a blue state versus a red state. Harder building means less building. Less building means less inventory. Less inventory means smaller supply, which increases rents.
Okay.
That is one of the reasons why you can get $3,000 for a 4-bedroom in Washington from Section 8, which means you can probably get more. I think the person that we were just talking about was renting a place for 32, 4-bedroom.
Right.
Versus you go to a red state where a 4-bedroom will rent for $1,500 or $1,200 in some places. So the rent appreciation is caused by dealing with the unlandlord friendly laws that exist here. Have you ever gone through an eviction in this state?
I have.
Okay, and how long did it take?
Well, that was your favorite buddy.
Oh yeah. Did you go through a court eviction?
No, he just skidded his ass right on down the road.
It's different when we show up with 3 Loompas and we just walk in and we go, you're getting out. It's a little different than what we can teach people to do, right?
That's true.
Okay.
No, my evictions have mostly been in California. And I've used an attorney to do them, and they've all went pretty smooth.
How long do they take?
Roughly about 2 months.
Okay, so 2 months is not too bad. I've heard of places that take longer, and it's one of the reasons why, if you Google Rosamond, California, it's in Kern County, right on the edge of LA County,
Right.
Which did a few things. First, Kern County has a lot less restrictions and laws. That's why Rosamond, that strip right there, had 21 weed stores when they first opened up, but LA didn't allow them. So different regulations can impact it differently.
Those evictions worked pretty quick because the attorney, I actually went to him and asked him if there's any kind of paperwork that he would like me to use. It would make his job easier when it comes time for an eviction. He says, well, yeah. He says, I'll draw something up, and as long as you use my papers when you put them in, getting them out will be no problem. So he did that, and and he was right. You know, he's not the cheapest attorney around, but when you want to get somebody out of your house and somebody else in, it was right to go that direction.
You're allowed to find good, fast, or cheap, and you can pick 2. Can't have all 3.
Right.
So you got good and not cheap.
Right.
So, and I tried to not talk through that entire thing that you just said, because if you watch my channel constantly, you know that I have taught the concept of when you get your lease in place. Josh and Mary did this in Lacey recently, so not too far from here. They bought a duplex, and one of the things I said was, make sure you take your lease to the local attorney that you're probably going to use if you go through an eviction, and ask them if there's any verbiage that they want to add to that lease to make their job easier if you ever go through an eviction with them. And every time I've mentioned it in a video, if you've ever watched my videos, I say, this is something I learned from my brother. You taught me that. I'd had rentals for a while, and I heard you say that one day, and I thought, that's genius. And so then I've done that since then.
Oh, very good.
So good. That's awesome. Okay, we can diversify location. We can diversify property types. It's easier to get investing in real estate because you have to live somewhere. You can house hack. You've house hacked several different ways.
Right.
When you lived in California and you were renting on Shady Lane, you purchased the triplex in Rosamond, or was that after you moved?
No, I purchased it while I was there.
So you were renting and you bought rentals.
Right. Exactly.
How long did you rent after that?
Ooh, roughly about 2 years after that.
So for 2 years, you continued to rent while you owned rentals.
I did. Yeah. And then bought property up in Washington State and made my move. So yeah, it was just the way to go. I had a tree service, and the rental I was living in was real close to the center of where my service was. I bought places further out, and it worked out pretty good. My original start was I bought a single wide mobile home with the intention of living in that and finding a piece of property to build my dream home on. We were going to live in the single wide, and once the house was built, get rid of the single wide and go from there. Well, I had trouble finding the property that I wanted. And I had an employee tell me if I put that single wide in a mobile home park, he'd rent it from me. I figured, why not? So I did that and got a rent check, and man, the light went off. It was just so nice to get a rent check. And I never did live in that single wide mobile. To this day, I'm still renting it out, and that's over 30 years. So I did really well with that single wide mobile.
I had a friend's daughter over the friend and her daughter were there. And the daughter is you know what a liberal is?
I do.
Okay, so she's a liberal. And so you hate capitalism and you hate landlords. And we've talked about it a few times, and I was trying to say that, this is what a landlord does, and this is why you fix your properties, you take care of them, you give a good, like you said at the very beginning of the video, you give a good house to a good tenant.
Right.
A tenant showed up whilst they were there, and it's my tenant who still pays me in cash.
Yeah.
And it's just a wad of cash covered in glitter. I don't know how he has the glitter, but she saw somebody hand me physical cash, and that was when the light bulb came on for her, and she started asking actual intelligent questions. How do you get into real estate? What is the point of this? How does this work? So a Venmo, a Cash App, a Zelle, all the ways you can receive money meant nothing, but a handed pile of cash opened her eyes. Okay, so we talk about real estate because we can understand it. It was easier to invest in. You don't invest in stocks. You don't like retirement accounts. All through this entire thing, I don't think either one of us, and I'll probably have to watch this in Futureland myself, have said real estate is better than the other asset classes. We've said this is why we invest in these asset classes. I guarantee there is somebody out there who invests in stocks, like Joe Kuhn here on YouTube, who retired at 54 using stocks, not investing in real estate, no rentals, has a great retirement, has a good channel on how to do it. And he uses this thing called buckets, where you have, and I'm not going to explain it because he's better at it, but you have a bucket for money you're going to live on now, money for the next 3 to 4 years, and you have this different buckets. In real estate, we have two buckets that I like to talk about. We don't call them buckets, but we have a thing called reserves. So when you go to get a loan or you go to get your HELOC, the bank will say you have to have a certain amount of money in the bank.
Right.
You have 10 paid off rentals.
Mhm.
And if you're comfortable sharing, I keep $50,000 in a reserve that I don't touch. How much money do you like to keep in reserves?
Well, I always have at least 50.
Okay, right. And so anybody who knows David, I'll give you his address if you want to borrow money. That's why we never like to say what you have.
Right.
That's a reserves. That's not money we would lend out. That is a well goes out, a roof goes out. You go through a couple of evictions at the same time, you don't lose your assets.
Right.
No matter what you invest in, stocks, crypto, business, you need reserves. And the hard part for most people is to get started, you have to actually save. Right? What's one of the most Googled phrases on the planet is, how do I get started in real estate with no money? The solution is to get some money. Yes, there are creative ways. You can find people like Cody, right, to invest with little or no of your own money to get started. I think it was a few $1,000s to create a couple $1 million portfolio, which is continuing to grow. But is that the easy, lazy way? You were running a business while you were buying rentals. How much time did you have to go and talk to property owners?
Not a whole lot of time,
Not a
that's
whole
for
lot of
sure.
So you find them through auction sales. I remember we did one together for you that was an auction sale.
Right.
You've gone through an agent for MLS. So there's all these ways to make it easy to get into real estate. Here's a question I don't think I've ever asked you. What's the biggest mistake? And kind of talk up, I think the cars in the background give us some problem here. Biggest mistake you've ever made outside of marriage in real estate and investing?
Oh, wow. Uh, I bought a place with 3 houses on it. All 3 of them needed a lot of work. One of them was basically rent ready within a month or so. The second house needed more work, and I just let it sit for a long time. I just was making money doing my tree service, and I could have easily hired the work done and got it rented out. Anyway, I waited to get it done myself. So if I remember right, about a year and a half later, I got that one rented out. The third house, I just put it on the back burner forever. And maybe 5 or 6 years later, I decided to hit it and get it going. And I did. So mistake wise, I would have been way ahead of the game if I would have just hired somebody to do the work on all 3 houses while I was making money doing my tree service and get those places up and running, up and making me money. So to me, that's a silly mistake. I don't do that anymore. When I get something, even if I do all the work myself, basically within 3 or 4 months, it's up and running.
So I wish I had a whiteboard to do this really quick. How much do you think that house that needed work would have cost to get repaired?
Well, it was years ago, but I mean, I could have had it done for about 25,000.
So $25,000.
Right.
Okay, we'll say 30,000. We'll pad it a little bit. It cost $30,000 to get this rented out. And how much would it have rented for?
Back then, right around 800 a month.
800 a month. So 10,000 a year. It's 9,600 a year.
Right.
So, and and it took you 4 years?
Closer to 5.
5 years. So 5 times 10, 50 grand.
Yeah. So
You only lost $25,000.
I did.
Right. And what would $25,000 back then have done to your life?
Right. And then also home equity that I could have used for the purchase of another. Just, when you buy them, don't let them sit. They're not doing you any good. Just jump on them. I'm a little bit better about that now. I don't feel like I got to do all the work myself anymore. There's contractors that need money too, and they earn their money.
They do. I think this was the first year that you've had a roofing company do a roof on one of your properties.
Yeah, I actually had the same company do 2 different roofs.
Okay, it's the same company that I use, Clearview Exteriors in Yelm, Washington. So if you're in Thurston or Pierce County, we've had great service from them. They're not an affiliate or a sponsor of this channel in any way, but Scott's a great guy and a fair price, good work, good crew, great interactions between their crew and tenants. Because I've had roofs replaced with tenants in place.
Yeah.
And they were super respectful of putting tarps down, cleaning up their mess, not getting anything near cars, checking tenants' schedules. Like they were pretty great to work with.
It was the same with me. The 2 that I had done, there were tenants in there. Tenants were more than happy with the way it was handled.
Nice. Right. And so even though I like the company and I don't think it would ever watch my content, I still get 2 or 3 bids. Right. Here's something I've shared. I don't know if I've ever told you this. So when you use a contractor, how many bids do you think you should get?
How many bids? Until you get a contractor you really like, 3 or 4 bids is a good idea.
Okay.
And then even at that, you should continue to get an occasional bid to make sure your contractor's staying in line.
Yeah. So that's very close to what I do. 3 or 4 when you're starting out, absolutely every time, right? And same thing with lending. Why would you talk to 3 contractors for a $5,000 deck when you're not going to talk to more than one lender on a 30-year commitment for hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? You talk to 3 lenders too. But when I would come home from the Marine Corps and on the weekends, and I don't think you had moved yet, but I'd go out and do estimates for Dale.
Right.
So I was the bidder going out and getting jobs and lining up work. Here was the direct order from Dale running the business. We have work booked out for 3 or 4 weeks. So prices are going to go up because if we have to do it now, we're going to have to work on the weekends, or we're going to have to push another customer out. We're going to have to kind of displace a customer to get this done. So the price goes up. Or sometimes Dale would say, your favorite line, I heard it 100 times over the years. Yep, after this job, we're unemployed again because there's no work lined up. Then the prices come down because you want to eat.
That's true.
So I would call you a great contractor doing trees, right? You ran a great business. You had repeat customers for decades. But when you're hungry, prices come down. And when you've got a ton of work booked, prices go up. Even good contractors do that. So even if you have that, I like Scott, I like his company, but if I go and do a roof, I'm going to get at least one other quote, maybe more.
It's really amazing the things you can find that need done when one of your contractors calls and says, hey, I'm hurting for money. You got any work for me? And man, it's just
that's
no
happening.
problem finding work at all.
That's happening today. You heard the call, the guy that reaches out. So he's doing a stretch the carpet thing.
Cool.
Yeah. So you have work ready when your contractors reach out, because the contractor who you answer the phone for is going to answer the phone for you when you have that 10 o'clock call at night that needs something fixed. Okay. Once in a while, I say something smart. It's really weird. I know you're not used to it. So I'm going to look through the comments now. That was the intro to this of why we invest only in real estate. It's not the better way. It's not the best way. It's the best way for us. And there are a ton of YouTube channels on how to invest in stocks and crypto and how to improve your business. And when we do our course, sometimes I cover things like how to improve your business. Tonight, there is a course call at 6 o'clock. Remember, every night for the month of July, we're getting a course call. We did a members only call this last weekend. We'll be doing another one some day during the week in the next week or 2 for the people who can't make the weekends ones. But the idea of these live streams on Tuesdays is to answer questions. And what you have is 2 old guys this time who I've been retired now 2 years. The 5th was my 2nd anniversary.
Oh.
And you're coming up on 9 years.
Yep, it's already 9 years.
So about investing, about retirement, about the long list of reasons why we're single. We should do one of those debates where I say all the reasons why you're single and you say all the reasons why I'm single. And I think that would be.
They don't need all that.
Do you have boxing gloves here? Okay. No, they don't need all that. I'm single because of me. It's my choices. Every one of my mistakes was mine. I think I shared in another video Dale explaining why I'm single. So this would be the only overshare, I think. He said, your problem, Dion, is and this is if you have kids in the room, close their ears. He says, you're attracted to sluts. And then you marry them, and then you're upset that they're that way.
That's true.
Dale's genius. That's our other brother from the same mother. We have brothers from other mothers, but okay. Howdy, everybody. Good to see you here. I appreciate you hanging out with us on a Tuesday. Happy Tuesday. Ninja Vanish. Heck yeah, David is back. See, you have people who appreciate you coming. And good evening, everyone. Laura, howdy. See you. Ben here. Leaving house hack number 1. Our unit has been listed 30 plus days. We could pick 2 guys that applied together, one 686 and the other 608. My floor is 680. Would you approve or decline and relist at a lower price? So I have an answer to this. So here, let me sum up this question because it's kind of a longer one. Properties for rent, they've listed it over 30 days. They have kind of qualified people that are just under their requirements. Okay. What would you do?
Ooh. Geez, I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. I've put people in whose credit was just terrible, and they've turned out to be great tenants. I actually talk to people, listen to them, see what their situation truly is. I check up on their situation. One of the things that I do is I ask, well, where are you staying now? And there's usually a reason why they're being booted out or something. I said, well, I'm thinking about giving the place to you, but let's go right now to your house and I'd like to see how you live. And usually they say, well, in a week or so, can you do that? Or the place isn't clean or it isn't dirty or they have an excuse. I would never rent to somebody like that. I would want somebody that says, sure, come on over. If I go in their house and it's not absolutely spotless, that's no big deal. But you could see somebody that takes care of a house. And to me, that's one of the most important things with my rentals.
So go ahead.
Finding a perfect tenant isn't always the easiest thing to do. You got to have a gut instinct. So I know I didn't help you in any way there, but it's just what seems to.
So you go off of feel when you do it. If your property manager was listing the property, because you have some of your properties through a property manager and some through yourself. And it's listed for over a month, and the property manager says, okay, we've got a couple of qualified or applicants, but they're not qualified.
Right.
What would you do then?
Normally, with my property manager, I give them the reins. I let them do what they have to do. I totally leave it up to them. Everybody has circumstances as to why their credit history is bad or various other reasons. There's always a way to work around it. You could ask for a higher security deposit because of the fact that you don't qualify in this one area, and if you continue to pay monthly on time for a year, we can give that portion back to you because you've proven yourself. There's all different angles and ways. It's bad, but I believe in helping people out when there's a chance. Doesn't mean everybody deserves it, but.
You mean like letting your homeless brother crash on your playroom floor for a few months? Yeah.
There you go. It's just, I don't know. I've had really good luck. I had one family show up. At first it was a husband and wife, and they really wanted the place and they had kids. I said, well, I'd like to meet your kids. So they show up with the kids, and you could tell they said, you better behave. We need this place. Well, kids are running around, and one of them climbed up a tree and fell out of the tree right in front of me and landed with a big whomp right in the ground. He jumped up and you could tell he wanted to cry, but he had been told, better behave. So that kid stood there with a tear in his eye, but it never ran down his face. And they hopped in their vehicle, and as they were leaving, they stopped, and the woman came out and she says, look, I know there isn't anything about our application that is in our favor, but I swear you give us this place, I will take care of it. We're in a mobile home park right now. It's dangerous. I worry about my kids. Please give us this house. So I did. And like she said, there wasn't one thing on that application that jumped out at you saying, go for it. They raised their kids in that house until they were out of high school. And the parents stayed there for a couple more years and finally they moved on. So it was a good decision. And they took great care of that house. So once again, I know it doesn't help. It's
No,
a good instinct.
okay. No, that's a great answer. So now here's my YouTube version answer.
Okay.
Right. Because first you have to realize what state you're in, what laws apply, fair housing, and what your options are. Kind of like, let me ask for a higher deposit. Some states have a rule, an actual law, the deposit can't be more than the rent. So if you go, let me take a higher deposit from you and it breaks that law, then your whole lease is in violation. So you have to know your local laws. It's not that way where we are. So
Right.
we're good. And so credit score tells part of the story. What does the credit history look like? So you can, without even doing the living seance version of David getting to know somebody and saying, I like you, so I'm going to rent to you.
Right.
Maybe you don't have that because my people picker is broken. Like I know that when it comes to relationships, so I'm not going to ever pick a tenant on how I feel about them.
Good enough.
I rented to the first one that I did that you rented to, and
Right.
how'd that work out for me? So, and you, is it possible to get a cosigner for the people who have the 608 and this, that aren't hitting your 680 requirement? Is 680 normal for your area? Like I talk about having a 700 credit score requirement in my area. That's kind of normal. In Gary, Indiana, that would not be normal. If you have above a 600, you probably buy a house. So you have to know what's normal for your area. If it's been listed for 30 days, before I lower the rent to get a better tenant, I steal this concept from big apartment complexes. Big apartment complexes don't like to lower their rents because a reduction of $5 a month can, and Cody will tell you this, because an increase of $5 a month can have a huge impact on your net operating income, which can greatly increase the value of your property, stabilizing your loans, accessing more liquidity and liquid cash in the future, all of these things. So what they do is they offer concessions. Instead of, let me lower the rent $100 a month, let me offer half a month rent off or something that can attract a person. Have another investor look at your listing if it's been on for more than 30 days. Maybe you have something that's important to you or an investor, but wouldn't matter to a tenant. Like a couple of examples, tenants don't think in square footage. They don't care. You go to any tenant and ask, how many square feet is the place you're renting? They probably don't know. They don't think in age of building. We look at that when we're buying because we know we've got to update or maintain the plumbing, the electric, everything that can go wrong based on the age of the building, how hard it is to get insurance. Tenants don't think that. A 2-year-old house and a 40-year-old house can rent for exactly the same to a tenant because they are thinking bedroom count, parking, distance to amenities. Amenities can be school, can be their work, it can be the commute roads that they're going to go to, or it can be something local in your area like a lake or a public attraction. So concessions first, and then have other investors look at that advertisement because the order that you put your pictures in could be negatively impacting how people see your rental. Are you showing the front of your house because that's what normal people do? Or do you maybe have a really cool looking kitchen that would grab people's attention? Is there something that another investor that looks at your listing might say, hey, here's some things we can do to spice this up? Matt, the Lumberjack Landlord's course, I had a friend, because I have very low skill at listing properties. I've had very low tenant turnover, so it's not one of my strong points. And I had a friend who was struggling getting a tenant too. We had Matt, through his course, look at her listing, and he gave about probably at least a dozen alterations to what I was doing with her listing. And immediately within like 3 days, tons of applications came in. So finding somebody like Matt that knows what they're doing, because it's not that he has higher turnover, it's that he has a big portfolio. So his turnover, what's probably about the same as mine, is a larger number, even though it's the same percentage. So he's developed that skill. And then, yes, you could lower the rent. And what's funny is good tenants know what area average rents are. Desperate tenants will pay a higher rent. That's why you get more bad applicants for higher rents. They think, well, it's more than I would pay anywhere else, but maybe they'll take me, making it kind of obvious why they might have the lower credit score or bad financial decisions because they make poor ones, like renting a place that's above area average. How are you finding what you think a comparable rent would be? right? Because Rentometer is not very accurate. Zillow, Redfin's rent estimates are not very accurate. Doing a 2-week minimum rent study of what's on apartments, what's on Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, and thinking, what do these places rent for? This is a skill I would love for David to learn, because he has properties that would rent out for $1,700 a month. Would you like to say what your current rents are, or would you like me to?
I'd be more than happy to say it.
Say, just
I got
transparency.
one that is at $625 a month. It's a husband, wife with 3 little kids. And they take really good care of the place. Got another one that's $750 a month. The $650 a month one would probably rent out for about 12. The $750 one would probably rent out for 1350.
And you saw that I looked up Section 8 in your area, and they pay $1,700 for a 2-bedroom in that county, in that town.
Right, there we go.
But you think 12 or 13 is fair, because it's a big number from where you were. So you had a tenant move out and you put a new tenant in. What did you put that tenant in at?
850.
Oh, 800. It's a big increase for you, right?
It is.
It is.
You know, they're in a different state, and I just feel good with it. And they take good care of the place. They never call me with a major problem. If they do, I'll jump on it, but they take care of everything. I know I can get more. It's a weird feeling. I know I'm doing it wrong, guys. If you're after it just for the money, then there's other ways to go about it.
So let's say not just for the money, but let's say hypothetically, let's say you have a major health concern, and all of a sudden you can't be the one to go on the roof, and you can't be the one to go fix the plumbing. You can't be the one to travel to another state. What will happen, since you don't want to lose a good tenant because you don't want to increase the rent, is you would lose a good asset.
Right.
Because now what happens if California says, hey, single family homes in Kern County are also rent controlled. So you can only go up $20, $30 a year.
That is something to be concerned.
And then the taxes come back at $5,000 a year instead of $1,000 a year.
Right.
You literally just lose the property. So yes, does it feel good to rent to somebody for half of what they would be paying at anywhere else in that place? And your rentals I've seen your work. Your craftsmanship's way better than the contractors that I hired you.
Yeah.
And I have some good contractors. Right. They're in great shape. They're really nice rentals, and you're not even getting half. So you feel good.
Right.
But as the brother that will probably have to take care of your decrepit ass when you can't work anymore and do your own work, I need you to be getting the right rent so you can get that reserve up. So
yeah, that's true.
I'm here to take care of you. That's fine. But make my life easier by doing the binder strategy and then sharing with everybody how it goes. Because I guarantee you're going to have the same experience that Michelle does. You're at 7 something with the tenant. You're going to do the binder strategy. They're going to see that they would be paying $1,700 from the state. You can show 1,800 and 1,900 comps. They're going to suggest 1,400 or 1,500 because that's lower than average. And you're going to think that's way too much. I'm uncomfortable with that. How about we do 12 or 13? Tenant suggested more. You get more. Tenant's happy because you went lower than what they suggest. I can play this all out in my head because I've done it a dozen times.
Right.
And so you will still feel good and have money. Did you know money is used in exchange for goods and services, and people like money? Okay. And we don't do it just for the money, but you need the money when something goes wrong.
Right. No,
so
that's true.
Half of what I'm about to say is for the people watching, and half of what I'm about to say is for you. Okay. So when I say, why do I invest only in real estate? This is what I want you to take this, kind of store in the back of your mind. Yes, I understand David's a better human being than I am, but actually, I don't know if I could do this because it's too mean to you to educate you this way. So, because I don't want to call you up, we will talk publicly after the video, and I have something I want to share with you. Okay.
Just earlier, just not too long ago, I was asked whether they'd put people in a bad credit score and stuff like that. And obviously that's not the best thing, but I do my own screening with the houses that I handle myself. I make all the calls. I find that all the calls, all the references and everything are their friends that are going to lie to you and tell you all the great, wonderful things. One thing that's very important to me is how long they stay in the rental that they've been in. If they have a turnover rate and it's real quick, staying in a place 1 or 2 years and moving on, that's not good. You want somebody that's been in a place for a while, and that says a lot to me. I mean, they're doing something to stay in and not be kicked out. You can find out if they're being evicted. You can find out all kinds of stuff like that. But how long they stay in a place is very important to me.
Yeah, longevity of tenants. It's one of the main reasons. And so I do a few things backwards. I don't know if you know this or not, but I do things differently than other people.
I know.
I know. You laugh at me because I'm different. I laugh at people because they're all the same.
Okay.
All right. So Okay, I'm gonna share this with you. I tried to find people who used to be landlords because I was going to retire with only rentals. Do you understand the fear of not knowing why people quit? I mean, how many people do you know that used to have a rental?
Well, there's a lot of them. It's
Okay.
crazy.
I couldn't find people to talk to me about buying. It's like I was asking Paul earlier. I was like, "Hey, you're retired. Can you come on and do a video and talk about what it's like to be retired?" And he was like, "Oh, nope, I'll talk to you, but I ain't talking to YouTube because the camera's scary." And Paul's got great stories to share what the change to retirement was like for him. He can help somebody. So I was looking for people who would tell me why did you used to own rentals? Right? Have you ever sold a property?
Nope.
I have not either. So I was thinking, what if I retire and something happens in my life that makes me sell my properties like those people did? And so I BiggerPockets community. What do you find? People who own rentals and are trying to own more. You have people like Frank and Cynthia who used to own rentals, got out, but then got back in. So I can't even go to them and say, why'd you get out? Because you came back. So the thing that made people just completely ditch it and never come back to it, like BCD saying it's a mistake to not buy Bitcoin. I get it. There's other asset classes out there. People choose other asset classes. And then I found this investing community called Choose FI that is mostly stock investors. And some of them used to own rentals and got out completely and stayed out. Now they're only in stocks. And I asked them, why'd you get out? And I asked, I want to say my message feed through Facebook and social media, there were hundreds of comments.
Yeah.
I asked, why did you get out of rent? And some of them said I got divorced. Some said my health. Some said I got old enough to where I wanted to get out of it and get into something easier, right? So they were in their 80s at that point. Do you know what across the board almost everybody said? I had to sell it because I didn't raise the rent. Dozens of people had rentals, but at some point you'd make more money burying the money in your yard, like one of our brothers does, than you would having it in the rental.
Okay.
So, okay. That's what we would do with the tenants. We're trying to be very thorough in here. Howdy to everybody. I appreciate you all being here. Hey, David, how bad was Dion at tree trimming? Oh, you want to do the I almost killed you because something in my eye story, or you almost killed me because the skidder moved quick enough story?
He had his moments. He really did. He almost did kill me. That's not a joke. I had him on a line and told him if I slip and fall, you got me. Well, I slipped, and as I was falling, he dove for the rope. He caught me before I splattered and said, "Why ain't you holding the rope like you were supposed to?" He goes, "I had something in my eye." And I'm thinking a fist is a good thing for your eyeball right now, but
So every time you tell that story, you leave out the 3 hour berating morning that we had, where you just yelled at me about everything. And I was a teenager at the time and I couldn't do anything right. And yell at somebody for 3 hours straight and then say, hold this rope. You have my life in your hands, and tell me who's the idiot.
oh well, I guess we both learned on that one.
Climber, faller, topper, roper, grunt labor. That's why I wear grunt work shirts, which you should wear. He drops a log, just cutting into log lengths to drop in the backyard. We don't wear hard hats because we're rednecks. We owned hard hats at some point when you got the stump grinder thingy, right?
Whenever Ellen and I
Log hits me in the head. I'm bleeding down the side of my face. And when you're up in a tree, you know your voice echoes to the whole neighborhood.
Mhm.
What do we hear? I won't use the actual words. Get the F up. You're making me look bad. That's my tree work experience. People go, why'd you join the Marines? It was easier.
There we go.
People only shoot at you from one direction. Yes, Dennis 13. Well, wait, what does this mean? Dion is in California. No, David splits his time. He's mostly in Washington for the summer, mostly in California for the winter. The sea-doos, quads, side by sides now with your friends. You actually go out with the Bush family in the dunes, and then you do. So he travels all the time. But we're in Washington currently. Where would rents go in 10 to 20 years? Well, if you're David's tenant, exactly where they are today. You have tenants from like 2006 that are still paying the same rent, right?
Pretty close, yeah.
Pretty close. Okay. Well, I've heard you kind of tell me something like that. I wouldn't care if I wasn't going to be the one taking care of you. Okay. You might be the one taking care of me, and you'd be glad that I make so much money.
Yeah.
Uh, JMC. I'm debating on living abroad with a remote job and saving enough to earn to buy my first property. I think that's a brilliant.
Sure.
So David rented and purchased a triplex. I had a house, moved into another house to rent my house out. I don't think you have to buy your forever home first or your house that you live in first. I think renting while buying rentals is a great strategy. And I think remote work has completely changed the landscape. So here's a couple of ways younger people are screwed. And this is not Millennial Mike saying all boomers have screwed up the world. It's you're just going to be screwed by the physics of money. Right now, most people our age or older have a 4 or 5 bedroom house that they raise their kids in. And traditionally, what would happen is when you hit 70 or 65 or 70 and you retire and your steady, constant drug that kills your dreams, that paycheck goes away. You downsize, you sell your 4 bedroom house, you buy a 2 bedroom house. Well, now houses cost more and interest rates have doubled where they were 3 years ago, where most people refinanced. So you're going to pay more. So the retired people aren't going to be selling their house, they're going to be keeping their house. So they don't have the starter home for the new people that want to start and grow a family. So you're going to be paying more, or you're going to be renting longer. We have that renter's nation. But you're also going to be screwed by younger people that can work remotely. In the last 5 years, Millennial Mike was able to pick up 27 rental units in Gary, Indiana, because his biggest competition was people buying a house who would commute from Chicago or commute to one of the kind of better areas in that neighborhood. But now you can take a $60,000 and $80,000 remote work job and move to a town where nobody makes above $30,000. And now you're the richest person in town. What is going to do to home prices as remote work becomes more stabilized? So my last purchase, I actually purchased because of remote work. Kitsap County rents almost doubled. They went from 12 or 1300 a month for a two bedroom to I got 2125 with a line of people trying to rent it because remote workers have gone out from Seattle trying to escape the insanity where the work is. They don't have to live where the work is. They can go out another hour. So rent's pushed up, but they can't buy. Because what if they get called back to work? That's the current mentality. So if you're pushing out where you're hunting for your properties, you're going to have great deals for a few years. In a few years, there will be permanent remote work positions that are just more normal without the fear of companies call you back to the office, and then those property values are going to push up. And it doesn't suck to own properties that become worth more money, right? Jared would do that if he didn't have kids. I decided not to have kids, but I had already had 3. So house under, okay, here we go here. JNC, does the bank look at your income compared to house price cost to evaluate if you can afford the house cost while applying for the bank loan? You've always used a home equity line of credit, so I'll answer this one.
Sure.
They look at your income for 2 years on commercial and FHA and VA loans, right? So you matter for 2 years until you own a rental for 2 years. Once you have rental income on your tax returns, now they look at the rental income off the rentals. Some lenders will do it in less than a year. But if you have bad debt to income ratio, and this is not how I did it, I wish I'd known about this earlier on. I could have saved myself 2 years. I would have still taken 2 years to get the down payment. That rooster is all day like that.
Pretty much.
And you got a shotgun, right?
I do.
Okay.
It's a happy rooster.
You got a barbecue? Like barbecue, shotgun, chick. I know what's for dinner.
All right.
Okay. Don't chew on the buckshot. Okay. DSCR loans are called debt service coverage ratio loans, where they will actually not look at your income, your debt to income ratio, your salary, or any of that. They will still look at your reserves, net worth, and credit score, but they look at how much the money will that property make. So there is a way to get started and grow faster. After you have rental income for 2 years, it's much easier to grow in real estate. My last 5 or 6 purchases, the banks have never asked me what I made. I did buy one before I retired, and they still look at tax returns to see it's on there. But you have a history. You are a less risky person for them to go, let's look at what you're buying. What would that rent be? And usually they have a 1.1 ratio. So if the mortgage is going to be $1,000, the rent would have to be at least $1,100. And when you're buying a duplex, the rents from each side would total much more than that. So it gets easier after those first 2 years. The 2 years are the challenge. Philip. This might be a good one for both of us. If you had to start over from scratch in today's Washington market with much larger down payments needed. What strategy might you tweak or do different to keep your path to 10 years fi? So when you say that, there are 0 down loan products for non-veterans. So the down payment hasn't gotten bigger. An FHA is 3.5. Your first time starting over from scratch, if you haven't owned a home in 3 years, is only 3%. So you can go buy $1 million house for $30,000 down. So the down payment isn't the barrier that you would expect. The problem is, we can go through all the, I won't do it, but we can go through all the statistics of how many people don't have 30,000 or $30. They don't have a net worth that's positive. They just don't. They have the average $16,000 in credit card debt that they've had for over 2 years, right? So yes, the average person is not going to be buying a house, period, in any state. You have to not be average to do this. So starting from scratch today in Washington.
Okay. Well, I've always had a little bit of money with my tree service, but
So you'd have to start a tree service, you'd get a chainsaw and a truck, and you start making money.
pretty much. But
Okay.
where I really did well was I was willing to work on the places. I would find places that had things wrong with them that banks did not want to give loans on. And you can negotiate 0 down for buying places if you get those kind of places. Because they just won't qualify a loan for anybody. And if you go in there and say, I'm gonna fix it up, I'm gonna have it perfect, I'm gonna rent it out and I'm gonna be able to make payments, they'll even let you go half a year without making payments, just to give you the chance to do that. They'll jump on it because what you're doing is you're taking their property, you're making it great. And if you fail, now they got a real nice house that they could sell and they're really happy. So that's the angle that I would do right now. And believe me, those places are out there. You drive around, you look for notices on the door, you look for boarded up windows, you look for roofs that are kind of falling in. If you're willing to actually step up and say exactly what I just said right there, all you're doing is making their asset worth something, and the bank would be foolish not to let you do it. Sorry that all my answers are so long. It's just a little bit winded.
That's not long enough. So here's the thing. What you just described is a watered down version of Cody Davis, who was our first super chat today. That's
Okay.
the strategy he used. He's the one you met him at the local Tacoma FI meetup, and you were like, wow, that guy
Oh,
seems to know his
yeah.
stuff. And he's like, couldn't buy a beer yet, right?
Right.
And he had 30 rentals at that point in time. He's much bigger portfolio now. But
Right.
he looks for owners, gets to know them with the relationship, doesn't come and go, hey, you want to sell me your property? He's like, how did you get to where you are? And starts that and then does the same thing, sweat equity down the road.
Okay.
Dividend Dave says, hey, that's my name too. Howdy.
Cool.
He used to live here. He came to the local meetup a couple times, and then he is now house hacking a duplex down south in the Louisiana area. Starting over from scratch today. I wish I could say I would do something creative like that, but I know I don't have the skill set or patience. I was a single parent when I started, and I'm not now, but I understand my nature. I'm not an entrepreneur. I didn't run a business. You ran a tree service. I joined the Marines and then went off to law enforcement, truck driving, CDL teaching, like show up for a paycheck, you know. I'd get a job, probably driving a truck or teaching at a CDL school. That's what I know. I worked for 2 years to become bankable. I'd be renting for those 2 years. In 2 years, I would be buying my first small multifamily house. It's a 10-year path. Starting today or starting 10 years ago, it would take me 10 years. My goal would be to buy one property every 2 years. It would speed up because I wouldn't plan on it speeding up, right? I would plan on buying a property every 2 years. But if rents increase, if the opportunity to refinance at a lower rate happens, if I can do things like add a closet to increase cash flow, those things aren't counted on, right? Don't make outcome goals, make action goals, right? I would not say I'm going to buy a property by the end of the year. That's an outcome goal. My action goal is I'm going to look for 15 minutes every day at my list of rentals that come in or properties that come in that I could buy. I can control how many I look at. I can't control how many I'm going to buy because two things tell you when to buy. One of them is to find a great deal. You can't control that. Looking, the more you look, the more ways you look, the more odds are that you'll find that. So it's a 10-year plan. 2 years, I'd start house hacking. I'd probably house hack more than I did because I don't have the kids this time. Last time I house hacked the duplex, and then I didn't house hack again for years until I bought the fourplex. I'd probably house hack a couple of duplex and do the lumberjack landlord way where he house hacked 9 times in I think 8 years or something. I know it was 9 times. I don't know how long it was. Until Ashley was like, we need to finally buy a house. And she was done with that. Matt has said several times he would house hack again. I'm house hacking now. I'm house hacking into retirement. One of the bigger mistakes, I think, is that we think of house hacking as a way to get started. But, and this is something we do the same. I actually am not realizing this until recently. You own this property.
Mhm.
You get it's 5 acres. You get 2 houses on it. When you're in California, who takes care of your house? There's a tenant living here. When I'm in Thailand for 5 months this winter, my tenant on the other side of my duplex and be taking care of my property. They can take in an Amazon package. They'll notice a leak. They'll on any issues that pop up, they can take care of it right there. And I did rent to a guy, and my rent is a little lower than I probably could have gotten, but I did say. And at the time, I inherited a cat with the house. And the cat had to be put down now, but I inherited a cat with the house. And the deal was that you're going to take care of the cat when I'm not here. And a benefit to house hacking in retirement. So your property's taken care of when you travel, because you should put traveling on your retirement plans.
Oh, that's the only reason.
It's the only What favorite place? We've been to a few places. Favorite place we went to?
I like Portugal. That's one of my favorites.
Really?
Thailand was good.
Okay.
Didn't care much for Colombia that much.
Hang on. We go to somebody said you need to come to a members only. We can't do it in members. We might do it in the course. A thing to tell Patia stories. Okay, so we go to Patia, and you say you liked Portugal.
I did.
Okay, did you meet the people?
I did.
Is your memory going? Okay,
No,
Portugal. No, I love the water in Portugal. Benadryl Caves, beautiful.
True.
No whale sharks.
True.
That was amazing. Okay, Team America and getting paired up with Team France for the scuba. We were talking about that this morning. The guy who paired us up with the French scuba girls needed a bigger tip because he was my hero. Really? Portugal? Okay. So what part of Portugal did you like?
The whole Algarve.
Everything? The whole Algarve? Okay.
Yep.
Next time, go do Lisbon, Porto?
We could. I like to be right on the ocean.
Well, Lisbon's on the ocean. We'd have to go summertime
Further up.
because it's further up. Yeah.
I'll go anywhere. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I was wrong. There's a few more overshares than the one in this video. We need to do an auction section. What was it like to do your auctions? What are things you could do to make it better at the auction? Some people don't have a ton of money, so you're going to the auction in the first place.
Oh, wow. It's been a little while since I've been to the auctions. Normally you check into them, they give you a list of all the places, and you take your time to drive around and search them. Some deals are there, some aren't. Once again, like I said earlier, I look for the ones that banks won't give a loan on. And those are usually the better deals. You got people at the auction for lots of money, and they want to buy the places with no headaches. And it's there for the people with a lot of money. But just starting out, there's always something there. Just do your homework, make sure you're getting what you think you're getting. Sometimes you could buy something and find out that you really didn't get it because taxes were owed, and the government gets theirs before you do, and you can pay for it and not have it. So do your homework. That's the most important thing.
I think what I would take away from that was brilliant was it's like the MLS, Michelle, because she's who asked the question. Thank you for that. She's from the local area here. That's the two duplexes in Spanaway. Just finished a 1031, so she's doing really good.
Right.
Do you know what a 1031 is?
Nope, but I understand it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. She did an amazing thing. You don't even have to know these things to own rentals and retire. Like there is so much to learn, but you're like, I could just buy a place and do it, treat it good and have good tenants, and then I never have to work again. It's that simple. So don't let me overcomplicate the process by trying to explain the nuances of things. Apologize if I've ever done that. On the MLS, the cleaner properties sell faster. The ones that need work sit longer and might be more negotiable. So at your auction, driving around, pretend we're not talking to a camera and it's just us hanging out. So this is totally hyperbole. Have you ever broken into a place that's on the auction to go see what the inside looks like?
Every one of them.
Okay. Hyperbole, right?
Oh boy. One thing that's kind of important with the auctions, if you're actually pursuing those, they have bankers right there at the auction, and they're willing to give you the loan if you could show proof that you're somebody. But they ask for a whole lot more money than the standard bank. So go to your bank, line up a loan, show up with proof that the bank is willing to back you to a certain amount.
So it's called a personal line of credit.
that saves you all kinds of money. The one problem I made, I went for a place. I wanted to pay, I think it was about 60,000 if I remember right. I wound up buying it for 27,000 and change. And I had showed up with a 60,000 check from the bank. They took the check, and 2 weeks later, they mailed me the difference. So to show up with several checks, some for 20,000 a piece, 10,000 a piece, and that way you only have to give them what it takes to cover your auction bid. That way you'd still have extra money to go ahead and pursue and fix the place up. So, but definitely, if you show up, there's bankers there that'll give you a loan at an outrageous price. Hopefully you don't fall into that, because they want lots of money.
That is great advice. I have never done an auction purchase, but that's great. I remember I've talked about it in a few videos, bringing cashier's checks for different amounts,
Right.
so that you don't have to give the whole amount at the same time. Again, something that I've heard you say, and that's why I've shared it. Somebody with an awesome name, Grim Repair.
Really?
When you start getting the idea that you may not need your job, how do you know if you should quit or if you're just getting impatient? How did you know it was time to retire?
Oh, wow. I ran a tree service forever, and I had it in my mind that I was going to give it to my son. And it finally clicked that he did not want it. I was offering him the complete business, equipment, everything. It was my dream, not his. And when I realized that, it was just time for me to back out. I'd already done all the tough jobs. There was nothing coming at me that I couldn't handle. The thrill was gone. It's time for me to just travel, which is something I've done all my life, and I just want to do more of that. So that was my deciding factor. I didn't need the money from the tree service. Didn't need to go out and prove myself anymore. I already did that. Just time to play. Been playing ever since.
And you still have all of the equipment. It's
I
been
do.
9 years, and you're like, oh, this stuff that's right. You gave me those ropes to do the hanging thing, and I was like, this smells like it's been in the bin for 9 years, because it's been in the bin for 9 years.
Got all my equipment to fall back on if I need to. Hopefully I never need to.
I still have my CDL. I just did my med card the other day, recertified. I found a place that you can go to get yours.
Right.
It's amazing. We walk in and they go, okay, here you go. So, for me, it was a little more mathematic. I reached financial independence where I had more money coming in than I was spending. And then I used a multiplier. So I wanted, right, I spent around 4,000 a month because I live for free, paid off vehicle, right? I do travel, but we travel to places like Colombia, Thailand, Portugal, places where the dollar goes farther, right? We're not going to Sweden, where Hartman was just at, and saying you can really see that inflation has hit there because of everything being so expensive. We go to places where 6 lobsters each in Cartagena and drinks, and we had a vegetarian weirdo with us.
Right.
$15 for the whole meal. Like,
really
yeah.
good.
So we travel to places like that. So yeah, it's a little easier to do amazing travel, but watch where your dollar goes.
Ate so much lobster, it finally got old. It was like, where's the hot dog?
I wish I remember that guy's name that would come up in the little dinghy boat with his lobsters trying to eat him. And he's like, which one do you want?
Yeah, he'd hold them up, you'd buy them, and he'd go and cook them and bring them right back to you.
Yeah.
Really good.
Okay. Maybe
You ready to go again?
All right. Michelle's actually from Colombia. We should ask her some places to go.
Nice.
I know we're going to Cartagena. That was probably one of my highlights there. Although the hot springs too, that was mostly because that was where English was like just unheard of. They were like, oh, you speak English, really? And I thought, okay, don't let me steal your brother. I waited till I had 4 times my cash flow coming in. So I need 4,000 a month to live comfortably. But what if I got sick? What if I went through several evictions and my reserves went away? What if there's another pandemic? What if there was a stock market crash or something, right? So I waited till cash flow passed 16,000. But from 2018 to 2022, before I retired, in 2018, I stopped touching any money from my job. It went into the account. I never touched the pay. I didn't even know what was in it. It just kept growing because I lived off the rental income for 4 years. That's a pretty good litmus test of, I don't think I will ever need to work to need this money. And in those 4 years, the cash flow from the rentals continued to increase. So it was that multiplier. The more you need to live, the smaller the multiplier would be. So if you need $20,000 a month to live the lifestyle that you like, I'd retire at 40. right? A 2-time multiplier. If you live in a really frugal country where you only need $1,000 a month to live, and that's entirely possible, I would wait until I had 5 or 6 times, because you are going to get sick. There is going to be a hiccup in your cash flow. There's going to be something that happens. So the more you need, the less multiplier. There's a sliding scale there. And then I think that me and Michael Zuber did a mistake, and the lumberjack landlord did the same mistake. We allowed work to impact when we quit. Right? I don't think you've ever come and said, I had a job, it was so bad, it scared me, I almost died, because you'd almost died many times, but you never said, I quit because it was so scary. You just said, okay, my cash flow is good, I'm going to shut the business down and travel.
Exactly.
That's the right way to do it. What Zuber did is he wanted to work another 5 years, and he went in at 8 o'clock in the morning to start a day, told his bosses, these are the things I don't want to do. They gave him that list of things to do, and he said, nope. And 45 minutes later, he was driving home, calling Olivia saying, hey, I don't work anymore. Matt waited for his company to sell because he had this loyalty to his coworkers, and he wanted to make sure the transition went smoothly and their jobs were protected. And not one of them has contacted him in the month since he's retired. So that was a dumb thing to do. But he's like, you, this is the better human than me, I guess. I stayed, had a good transition too, so I did that too. But I had a great day. I solved a massive problem at our company that made millions. And I was like, okay, this is a great day. I'm not going to have a better one. I had the owner stay in the same Zoom meeting that we solved the problem with, and I retired in that meeting. Our mistake was letting work decide when we retire. Instead of, I built the asset flow. I am ready to go enjoy this, and I'll walk away from work. Theodore, howdy. Our insurance just got canceled on our multifamily 30 units in Washington, no claims, 90 build. They said it was because we haven't repiped in the last 15 years. Do you do this? So I find new insurance, and here's what's going on. Theodore, you are, and we're probably gonna do this for like another 15 minutes because we got to be off. Course call is at 6. David might not stay for the whole course call, and how comfortable you are talking for this long, but he will be there for some of it, for those weird questions that you can't ask in YouTube land. You're welcome to ask in the course. You are a victim of rent control, Theodore. Rent control makes landlords richer, and here's how. And I'm going to relate it to insurance. Don't worry, I'm not losing my mind. I know what I'm doing here. So it was just presented in a session this year in Washington State that they might have rent control. So I went and binder strategied all my tenants, and I said, hey, there's the threat of rent control coming, and your rents, here's the area average, here's where you're at, and if rent control goes in, I'll lose money if my expenses go up. So what do you think is fair? I'm making a little over $3,000 more a month now because rent control was threatened. And if rent control goes through, then I have to raise my rent every year instead of having tenants from almost 2006 that you haven't touched the rent on. Rent will have to go up every year. So as landlords, if rent control goes through, we get richer. Insurance companies have an agency, and I didn't know this until somebody just applied to be one of my tenants, and that's where they worked. There's a assessor person, King Goomba, that runs the insurance companies in your state. Each state has a person that's the grand poobah of insurance, and they dictate how much an insurance company is allowed to increase their rates. And there's a bill they're trying to pass in a state that I was just talking to somebody recently. I think it was Florida or California. They're trying to say you are only allowed to increase your insurance rate 15%. It could be 50%, 15% doesn't matter. The insurance company's great. So if I have a tenant that's not paying enough rent and I can't raise the rent because of rent control, here's my options. You have 90 days to get out. I'm going to move in. You have 60 days to move out. I'm going to rehab the unit. You have 60 days to move out or 90 days, depending on your state, because I'm going to sell the property. So people become homeless because of rent control, and the landlord gets richer. The insurance company, which has happened to me 3 times this year, in years past, I'd get a letter saying, hey, that tree branch is closer than 10 feet from your roof, so we're going to cancel your policy unless you fix that. Send us a picture. Great, fix it. Now they just send you a check. We've canceled the rest of your policy. It ends on this effective date because of X, Y. It could be pipes. It could be the color of your walls. It could be any reason they want, because if they cancel your insurance, you now need to go get a new policy. I had a policy go from $1,300 a month. I had some offers at $5,200 a month, but I found a better quality one at $2,700 a month. From $1,300 to $2,700, is that 15%? No. Landlords aren't stupid. Insurance companies aren't stupid. Your state is probably limiting the amount that they can increase their policy. So they just kick you off. Now you got to get a new policy, and you're going to have a double or triple the expense on your insurance, which sounds terrifying. I went from 13 to 27. That's 100+% increase in my cost of insurance. It's like $80 a month. Tenants ask for the rent to go up $300 or $400 a month. So yeah, are these reasons to be angry and upset? Yes, because it screws over your tenants. Angel R. Dion looking more bro-like. There you go. Get the bro-like going on. Angel called me La Cabrita because you know when you say that person's the goat,
Right.
greatest of all time.
Yep.
Cabrita means little girl goat.
Really? That's
So
cool.
it's like, why do I remember certain things? Cynthia agrees with you. You made a great point. Ernie, $430,000 property, 8% interest, 25% down, 25,000 a year profit, cash on equity. Please rate this deal 1 to 10, where 5 is fine. I have one alligator, any chance of turning it around, and 10's turn calc. So I could probably whiteboard and tell you if the math makes that a good deal or a bad deal. I would look at your cash on cash return, but then I would follow with these questions, Ernie, before I would say good deal or bad deal. How's the parking? Is it in an HOA? Do you have washer dryer hookups? Are there elements at the property that will help limit tenant turnover, like side-by-side units instead of over-under, fenced yards that are pet friendly? How many economic drivers are in the area that provide you sources of tenants if your tenants move out? And if something moves away, like Boeing or Amazon, are there still other sources of tenants? Right. So to rate a property, we almost always focus on math. I've actually had videos do really well when I go, here's how I run the numbers on a house hack or a cash flow. But a deal being a good deal or a bad deal, that's actually, I see you're a member. That's what we talk about in those members. If you want in our next members this time, come Ernie this and bring that deal. We'll break it down and we'll go through. Yes, we'll look at the math. We'll pull out the CDS rental calculator app. We'll look at your cash on cash return based on everything. And then we'll look at all of the things of that area that we would consider to make it a good deal or a bad deal. Yep, there you go. There was a bunch of people kind of said the same thing as I was just saying. And even joined the members. He is a member. There you go. So that's perfect. Cynthia, a great community looking out for each other. Levita must have said good to take care of each other. Love that. I totally agree. And you have said things in messages like living with parents to take care of them. I I tried to get dad to move in with me towards the end. You didn't really get along with him, did you?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Would you have let him move in if he said, hey, I need a place to stay?
No, I'd have took him to your house and dropped him off.
I thought so. I thought so. That's funny because that's your opinion of him. And here's this a factual statement I could say, Dad, I miss you. And based on the jokes I make, I'm probably going to see you soon. He left me when I was 8. He took you when I was 8.
Okay.
That's it. So from my perspective, have you ever thought of it that way? You and him, I'm living in California, and all of a sudden you and him are in Ohio.
Yeah, kind of makes sense.
And you don't like him.
I don't.
I'm like the girl on Tinder that has the daddy issues. I'm starting to understand some things. Okay. The Flick channel, financial literacy is key. I love it. You lumberjack in one rental at a time changed my financial life. Thanks for all you do. Thank you. Awesome. House hacked in 2021 with my VA loan. Got a low rate. Loving the cash flow currently. Yes. And you are understanding why there's not a housing crash coming. Your interest rate is what it was then. It's not like interest rates went up. So now the 96% of mortgages that are out there that are under 6% are being impacted by these highs, just the people who bought recently. And BR Milburn, thoughts on resources like Furnish Finder to rent a traveling nurses. I have a 3-bed, 2-bath in a central location between 2 big hospitals, 1 big and living room trial. So our nurse, our sister is a traveling nurse, Allison. You saw her again after 27 years, right? I randomly ran into her at Santa Monica because of a Facebook post. She's like, hey, I'm next to you. We should talk to each other. It's been 27 years. Sure, why not? We talk all the time. Social media for you. She educated me on a website that shows you the per diem for traveling nurses. So if you're going to advertise on Furnished Finder, and her thing was she likes to go to a place like Ohio where it's really cold in the winter because they pay a higher per diem, where you go to Florida in the summer when it's really hot and they pay a higher per diem. So you can actually adjust your rates for traveling nurses on the time of the year based on what their per diem in your area is going to be. I will leave a comment in Futureland, a pinned comment to this video that shows the website where you can find the per diem that people get. Now it's traveling nurses, government officials, base contractors, anybody that's traveling. They get paid higher and lower in different areas based on the weather usually. And you can adjust who you're renting to. And from what I've heard, Major Sags, a friend of ours in the local meetup here, actually rents to that. And the statistics I've seen is about half of the short-term tenants or mid-term tenants are traveling nurses. That there's 50% are from other sources, but we almost always say traveling nurses because 50% is a big percentage. But traveling nurses, Furnished Finder, those other ways, great resource for that. Getting on the insurance list the way Millennial Mike does. He had a short-term rental. He has a duplex towards Seattle. He lives on one side, the other side he turned into a 90s themed short-term rental. So it's got all of the Nintendo and Atari and Terminator and Beverly Hills Cop and all that kind of stuff. And then an insurance company reached out and said, "Hey, we'll rent it for a year." And he said, "Yeah, but in short term, I get like $3,700 a month." And they said, "Sure."
Really?
And he sat back and said, "I could have said 4,000 a month or whatever."
Yeah.
So, yeah. Sorry about the cat. Yeah, but give it a good last year. Would you guys want to go to Italy or Amsterdam? Probably both, not one over the other. I've been to Italy. Good food. Amazing taxi drivers. 120 miles an hour in a 40-kilometer zone. Yeah, that was amazing.
Sounds like fun.
That was fun. That's not as fun as our driving in Colombia, where you should drive next time. I got to drive last time.
Right.
So we talk about aggressive driving where stop signs mean kind of slow down. That was fun. Amsterdam. I've thought so. A friend of ours, Petra, is from Holland, and we've talked about that. And all of the stories of the Nederland people, and I'm probably going to sound, because I hate two things in life, two things I can't stand: racists and Cambodians. But Petra would say, and this made so much sense, and I never thought of it until she said it. When you run into Dutch people, they are fun, entertaining, just the gregarious, right? They're amazing to be around when you run into them traveling. But when you go to Holland, all the boring people live there. The people that don't travel, the people that don't have the extrovert lifestyle that we're used to because you've met Petra. She's just a fun person. Yeah, so I don't know if I want to go to Amsterdam, and the red light district doesn't do anything. Actually, we got yelled at in Colombia because we didn't. We're not going to go into that on YouTube, but a 36-year-old who lives with their mom, Catholic girl, saying you should have because they're.
Yep.
I don't get it. Ben, thanks, Dion. I've never added a cosigner. Could you give me some next steps? Right. So talk to an attorney in your area to see how your cosigner laws work. And for us, there's a couple of things. Cosigner needs to be notarized. There's one other thing that my brain doesn't bring up. So check locally with an attorney, and it might cost you $150, but it could save you in the future. And it can give you a chance to do like David, rent to somebody that you want to, give them another option. Because I primarily use credit score and evictions because I don't look at income. Because I think if you eliminate people who have tips like bartender, waiter, cosmetologist, you're eliminating possible good tenants. So I don't look at income. So I rely heavier on credit score, but I've looked at credit history and I have had cosigners. Angel art, but the Colombian women are beautiful.
No argument there.
No argument. And the one thing that I can say is the Thai women are beautiful also, but it's more likely in Colombia that it's actually a woman.
That's true.
Because let me tell you how embarrassing it could be when someone says the words, "What a great kisser." Big Adam's apple, though. Michelle, chat overshare. I peed on the backyard of one to market because I really wanted it. I sold at auction for 100,000 more than I could pay. Awesome. I should show you the sign here that says no. Originally, it said no peeing off the porch, but now it says no peeing on the porch because the rules changed.
That's true. There's a difference,
I'll show you that sign as we wrap up, which we'll be doing here in a few minutes. Really quick here. Is traveling more possible when in growth mode acquisition assets for remote workers so you're still earning just remotely earning? Traveling in growth mode would be really hard. I think. The remote work to grow where you're traveling to, sure. But to save the down payment, yes. But when you were running your business and working on the rentals, how many years did it take you to get 10 paid off rentals, start to finish?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one because I actually bought more houses than that and lost them in a divorce.
Well, that's a great overview. We should wrap up with this. I'll look through to see if there's any good questions, but
that's a good part.
That's a great part.
I lost some places, man.
You reached 10 paid off rentals twice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. We won't go into that detail. Maybe in the course.
I don't know, if you focus and everything and have a decent paying job, my tree service didn't make me a lot of money. It's just what I did with the money. It's different for everybody. If I had it all to do over again, I believe I can get 10 rentals within 8 to 10 years.
Yeah, I think 10 years, a decade. It's the thing that people don't want to hear. It's probably going to be a decade.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't happen overnight.
I've talked with people that start now, and the problem is you can find people who are past the 10-year point. And we just say, well, you buy a rental, you fix it up, you put a tenant in place, you have a good relationship with your tenant, and you take care of the place, and 10 years later, you never have to work again. So we're at that position. And so our brains, when we find out about this stuff, is like, how do we get there now? Well, real estate is a get rich quick scheme where anybody can do it by saving and investing for 10 years. The trick is realizing that 10 years is quick.
That's true. Very true. And as you continue to get the rentals, they just start paying for themselves. For me, I want to say 3 or 4 rentals was perfect. I mean, after that, it was just no longer really my money going into them. It was all rentals paying for themselves. And it was just easier. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it quite right there, but it's just, once you get a few under your belt, it just gets smoother and easier and the benefits are greater.
I think the closest I would say where I've said something similar is I say this very often. The first 5 years suck.
Right.
Same thing. After that 5 years, like everything that comes, you can have a water pipe break, you can have a well go out, you can have anything happen, and you're like, yeah, okay, I've got enough where it's worth it to where I know I'm going to deal with this problem. But in those first 5 years, every problem feels like it's taking you out at the knees.
Sure.
Positive thing and a negative thing. Christine, who I met in Florida, is on her second and third house hack by 2026 and moved to South America, but slow down investing once every 2 years. Guess I need a higher multiplier. Yeah, but the way you travel and the places you've been, I think you guys are doing it awesome. And then the negative thing. Financial literacy is key, the YouTube channel. I'm 5 years away from my 20-year Army retirement. I ain't leaving. Just Google this. And I'm not saying this because I want to be, I'm going to use an unprofessional word here. I'm not trying to be a Richard. Don't be a Richard. Google the number of military service personnel that get pushed out at the 17th or 18th year and aren't allowed to re-enlist to avoid the pension. It's about 26%. It's over a quarter are literally pushed out. No, it's medical. So now you're going to go out and get your medical, 80, 90% instead of a pension that you're a couple of years away from. I'm not going to name their names, but the ones who moved to Idaho, he was in the Air Force, right? 17 years. You're out of here. This is why one of the things I like to do is get into channels like the active duty passive income channel, which is it's for everybody, but a lot of veterans are on there. The lady that's been on one rental at a time, and I can't remember her name, it's either Susan or Sarah, I think it's Sarah, who purchased rentals at every duty station, or some of the duty stations she was at is getting out with rentals. And if it's 17 or 18 years, she gets pushed out and she has 5 or 6 rentals. That's a better ending than, I hope, like our friend Dan, when he said, I'm going to retire, we all said, oh, I hope you make it to retirement. I hope you make the 5 years, and not living, but I mean in your service. I'd be investing along the way. I got pushed out after 6 years, right? And then I got pushed out of law enforcement because of the 2008 housing crash. Sometimes the change or choosing to get out of the military or law enforcement isn't ours to make. Well, I have a negative thing to end the channel on. Let's look and see if we can find a Melody. I am 12 years away from paying off a rental property. Before that, I only have equity without positive cash flow. If you don't have positive cash flow, I'd personally, if I had one that wasn't positive cash flow, I'd sell it and redeploy the funds. Owning a rental, the potential risks, the dealing with the tenant, when you say no positive cash flow, are you also setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy? There's a lot of ways to put that money to work. That's better. And the last thing, that's a big difference between us. You enjoy having 10 paid off rentals, right?
I do.
Okay. And if you get sued, they come after you and your rentals. If I get sued, they come after me, the bank, and the rentals. Right. Okay.
That's true.
And your properties are worth $2 million. And if they go up 5% in value, you gained $100,000. Right. Okay. I've only invested $320,000 in my own money. Properties are worth about $6.5 million. So if they go up the same amount as yours, I make 4 or 5 times what you do. I like having the mortgage as the last thing I want is a paid off property. Tenants will pay it off over time, but they've got a cash flow, right? I mean, you had a property that could have been making money that sat vacant for 4 or 5 years, and you've learned the lesson is, what do you want to do? You want to make the cash flow.
Yeah. If you got a property that's not doing cash flow before you up and sell it, why don't you look at it, maybe have somebody look at it, it's a contractor. There may be something you could do to it that'll bring in cash flow. You could take a large room and cut it into a bedroom simply by, putting in a closet and a door, maybe a short wall. There may be a way that you could put very little money into it and get it to start cash flowing. And if you've had that place for a while, you probably got, a decent loan on it, so it may be good to hang on to that loan because you're not going to be able to get another loan at the same kind of percentage rates. So before just running and selling it, just check into it. You may benefit by doing a little bit to it.
You got rid of the shooting fridge.
Yeah.
I was going to end the video with shooting the shooting fridge. What do we do now? So about 2 months ago, Melody, I did a video called 17 ways to increase your income on a rental without raising the rent, right? A lot of my channel is about the binder strategy, how you get your tenants to ask you to raise the rent. But you can do things like David said, maybe if you add a closet, turn it down into a bedroom rents for more. What if you do rent by the room or midterm instead of long-term? What is your ability to work in? Is that dog related to your rooster? Have you called your insurance companies, plural, shopped around for a better rate to see if you can reduce your premium cost? Offer to do things like my deductible can be as high as possible. Mine is 10,000 when possible, some limited to 5,000 because of the way the insurance was. But when you pay higher, because I'm never going to use my insurance unless it's a complete burn down. So a $5,000 or a $10,000 deductible doesn't matter to me, but paying less for my insurance premium has a positive impact on my cash flow. And that's just a couple of the ways that you can increase your cash flow without raising the rents. That video had a whole bunch more. Jesus.
Just another farm animal.
I did a video here with the cow one time.
Yep.
Where's he at?
Still out there.
Thank you all for hanging out with us on a Tuesday. I have a video coming out Friday on why the TGIF syndrome is killing you. And if you're in the course, I will see you in the course video in about 25 minutes. Have a week full of awesome. And you saw several comments asking you to come back. We could do this again sometime.
Sure.
Okay.
Just not real soon.
Just not real soon. Not for at least a week.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me. Sorry my answers were so long.